he wouldn't swap him for any other player in the world.
Right, it's your Geordie Journos. Sunbathed Tyneside, isn't it?
It's been too warm.
Yeah,
well, 1 week of summer, it's been too warm.
Obviously, we're in what kit again? We're about to play football. I don't know what this is all about.
It's the Euros, isn't it?
I don't know what this is all about. This isn't no endorsements here, but this is an M&M Direct cheapy one.
It's how you play.
Yeah, it's not what you wear, it's how you play. Is that your mantra?
Left foot, edge of the box, that's the Kennedy style.
Stole it, I learned from the best. Learned from the best, Dom Sker. Right, enough of that waffle. You're used to that on here. We thought we'd do a quick video talking about the topic of the week or the topic of the day, as we've been jumping in and doing bits and bobs. Alexander Isak seems to be the chat, so we'll have a little talk about that. Maybe a talk quickly on Bruno Guimaraes and the situation there.
Yeah.
And obviously, Four Rivers Financial Planning, being one of the corners here. They're proud sponsors of all long-form Geordie Journos content. And of course, a little shout, because on Monday we will be going on the TV. We'll put the details in the bio when this video does go up of the channel that we'll be on. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but we will.
May as well just edit that out.
No, I won't. Shots TV will be going on first, and then that'll be feeding into local TV, which on Freeview is channel 7.
Yes.
It's a longer number for Shots TV, but you will be able to find we're there in the next week. With Jordan as well, who's not with, he's still on his holidays at the moment.
Yes.
So
it's that time of year, isn't it?
It is, it is. You're gonna get this in the summer months where the Geordie Journos dip in and out, because we all have little holidays and times away from the football, even though it never leaves you. It's always in there. Right, go on then. Alexander Isak. We've seen a bit of talk from friend of the Geordie Journos, Craig Hope, talking about Chelsea inquiring. Bloody mad, aren't they? Surely? Tell us they're mad, Dom.
Well, they're very ambitious, I would say. I don't think they're mad, because he's one of the best strikers in the world, and I mean, I know how you think Chelsea can pull anyone from anywhere, so yeah, I think if you're wanting a striker, available, well, he's not, I wouldn't say he's quite available, but if you want a striker and you're a elite football club, Alexander Isak would be top of a lot of clubs' lists. So I'm not really surprised. He's been linked with a few clubs. Arsenal are long-term admirers, so I'm not surprised Chelsea have inquired. But Newcastle, the stance from what we've heard in terms of this inquiry and towards the back end of last season, Newcastle would not entertain any offer for Alexander Isak unless it absolutely, we're talking almost Premier League record, almost world record type fees, which is what Darren Eales alluded to back in January. So
obviously the third Geordie Journo in the sky, Jordan Cronin, inside joke there. He suggested today, when I seen him jumping onto X, he said he would only accept 180 million for Alexander Isak.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's almost world record transfer fee levels.
Yeah.
Definitely Premier League transfer fee levels, but could even approach that sort of over 150 million mark. But that sounds stupid. That sounds ridiculous. I don't think Newcastle would expect any club to entertain those sort of fees, and they won't entertain anything less.
I don't think they will. I don't think they entertain this idea. I think he's one of the key cornerstones. We've literally, as we'll come on to, just navigated what could have been a potentially tricky period in Bruno Guimaraes' Newcastle United history and future. I don't think they're going to sleepwalk into an Alexander Isak one. I think he will sign a new, much improved contract, which is, you know,
that's been in the works for
quite a while. We think that'll still happen. And look, you're right, Chelsea are a big club, still upwardly mobile. They seem to be able to find the odd 100 million here or there down the back of the sofa from time to time, or maybe it's down the hotels, one of the hotel's sofas. Yeah. And I think any top club would be mad not, like you say, not to think of Alexander Isak. But Newcastle United, it would send all of the wrong messages when Newcastle United even to consider a bid of any number, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of, and well, maybe this applies to Bruno Guimaraes, and I'll talk about him first before we come on to the contract. I think, but Bruno Guimaraes probably isn't a £100 million midfielder, but he's worth more than that to Newcastle United. And it's not necessarily about how much a player is actually worth, it's about what they're worth to that team. And Bruno Guimaraes and Alexander Isak to Newcastle United are worth these ridiculous sums, because to replace them and lose them basically takes, it's like pulling the foundations out from under a building. So I think you can command those fees. The problem with Guimaraes, as we'll come on to, was that Newcastle hands was forced by the contract in many ways. We don't believe that to be the case with Alexander Isak. So they have a strong position. Were they then to be tempted by that kind of money would be a concern to me. Because that's not what this project has ever been sold by anybody on the record or off the record that I've spoken to. Listen to Eddie, how you guys were in the press conferences all the way through the back end of the season, and he talked of the world-class operator, the almost irreplaceable centre-forward that you would build his team around rather than lose. I don't see how all of a sudden that becomes a saleable asset, no matter the price.
The quote that stuck with me from Eddie Howe, which I shared today and did a story on it on the Shields Gazette, was he wouldn't swap him for any other player in the world. And that's a big statement. That is a big sort of vote of confidence of your striker. No.
Erling Haaland? Would you swap him for Erling Haaland?
No, not in Newcastle as they are. I think Erling Haaland is a goal machine, and we've spoke about it previously on this channel. I think Erling Haaland in Man City is ridiculous, will always get really good numbers in terms of goals. I think if you put him in Newcastle's team, he may not be quite as effective as Alexander Isak, who scores at a very similar rate to Erling Haaland in terms of goals per minute, but with fewer chances created, and much less dominance in terms of the way Newcastle play. And I just think you talk about Bruno. He has a price to a degree. It's a very high price. I think Alexander Isak is almost priceless for Newcastle United, because I don't think you can improve on what he offers the side at the moment in world football.
As an individual,
as an all-round player, and strikers come at a premium. I think midfielders. Look, I love Bruno. I know you very much love Bruno as well. I think there's a reason strikers command the high fees. That is the hardest job in football, scoring goals, and that is the best players in the world tend to be those attacking players. And for me, Alexander Isak is a player that Newcastle, if God forbid they don't, but if they were to get rid of this summer, would be irreplaceable. And I think Bruno comes just slightly under that. I think he'd be very, very hard to replace, but I think you could almost replace his effectiveness, and I've said this previously on this channel, replace his effectiveness with maybe 2 or 3 signings and almost recreate the way you play, which he is so important to the way Newcastle play. But I think there's ways round it. If you were to get rid of Bruno, I don't think there's any ways round it where you'd improve the team or not decrease the quality of the team if you were to get rid of Alexander Isak. That's how important I think he is to Newcastle United. He's world class in every sense of the word. Very
much fits into my idea of thinking as well. The more you talk about it, the more you think about it. It is impossible. You could not replace. You could do a bit of jumbling around. Although what I would say in the Bruno Guimaraes position, were he to leave, but actually in terms of personality and player and everything that he is, since Alan Shearer, I think he's probably my favourite player at Newcastle United, simply because of everything that he represents, his swagger, his style, his attitude. I love all that. I love the passion there. Everything. It's just the whole package with Bruno is like skipper material. If he's not captain next season, Eddie Howe, in my opinion, is missing a trick massively. Bruno Guimaraes is a leader in his qualities, in his mentality, in the way that he plays. He's Brazil's midfielder. He's just everything about him. He carries that swagger. He would fit in any team in the world. If Eddie Howe doesn't make him captain next season, in trade of keeping Jamal Lascelles, who's been wonderful for Newcastle United, happy, or Kieran Trippier, who might or may not stay. We've got our opinions. We've shared them on here. If he keeps players like that happy and doesn't give Bruno Guimaraes a captaincy, I think he's really missing a trick. But on Isak, I agree. I think he's priceless, and it's about what is he worth in the open market. Is he a £100 million striker? Yeah, you'd say he's probably about a £100 million striker, not much more. But what's he worth to Newcastle United? Newcastle United taking 100 million now. What do you do with that? He's worth, and as Jordan maybe went a bit high with 180, but I get what he's saying. 200 million. I mean, is that enough? Like, he's worth so much to this team. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And Anthony Gordon's heading in that direction. Like Anthony Gordon, I think in years to come, the levels.
I think Anthony Gordon's probably arguably almost doubled his value since he's arrived at the club, and I think Alexander Isak and Bruno probably have as well.
I don't think in open market Anthony Gordon has. I was having this conversation. I was having this conversation with the other day. I think it's the what is he worth to Newcastle United compared to what he's worth. I think in the open market Anthony Gordon costs 45 million. Is he a 90 million? I don't think anybody pays 90 million for Anthony Gordon.
No,
and but he's worth that to Newcastle.
If he has another season like he has last season, he'd be 24, so still young. I think he'll be pushing 70, 80 million.
I think he's a probably 60 to 70 million midfielder, winger now. You know, if he has more of an impact than his 4 minutes he's been given so far by that bloke who clearly doesn't have all of his marbles. Yes, that one doesn't have all of his marbles. The silver lining is that it'll be no more after this tournament. Imagine being, I've said this on Twitter a couple of times, imagine being the fan base, pray it isn't Newcastle United, imagine being the fan base who has to welcome and go through that process mentally, like we've done with Steve Bruce and others, where you go, well, we've got to give him a chance. When Gareth Southgate walks through the door at your football club, you'll be like, oh my God, I can't do it. Yeah. So anyway, Bruno Guimaraes, we'll come on to him as well. A little tricky period, which I think a lot of people in the fan base would have worried about at one point, thinking this is a real danger. Kind of passed without much notice this week.
Fuss. I think the only noise really, and even then it was minor noise, was Man City maybe considering.
Well, I heard from, I have contacts on the Manchester City end, and I heard that he was loved by Pep Guardiola and was right at the top of a list of players that they wanted to sign. But given things that are going on off the field at the moment with Manchester City, they weren't about to press the button on £100 million for Bruno Guimaraes. I think that's a different story next summer.
Yeah.
And I think Newcastle United, if they don't win trophies this season, and at least don't get it. I think even just the Champions League isn't enough to keep Bruno Guimaraes. I think there has to be something tangible. He has to be lifting something above his head to stay beyond next year, and that's okay.
As captain.
He should be captain. Yeah, I think there has to be something tangible to keep that player. And they won't. I'll be honest, they won't lose Isak and Bruno in the same summer.
No.
So next summer, I think, is probably the Bruno summer. And I think most people out there, if they don't progress to that winning thing stage, will understand it, because he's a player who's been coming up with 27, 28 in his career. He wants to go and win things, and he is of a level that there aren't many like him on the planet. And then the next year might be Isak, you're having the same conversations. What Newcastle United need to do is, instead of adding squad fillers all the time, they need to start thinking about adding real quality, because when you take that quality out, you're going to have to replace it with real quality. Because the two flashes of real quality, world-class qualities, Isak and Bruno, with Anthony Gordon coming on the coattails.
It's so important the club grows with the top level of player they have, otherwise those players very quickly, and it may be happening a little bit already with missing out on European football, outgrow the club, and then they're starting to think, I'm better than this, I'm better than finishing 7th, 8th, missing out on Europe, I should be playing in the Champions League. I know Bruno already thinks that way to a degree. Yes. He was thinking that when he arrived at Newcastle. Unfortunately, very quickly Newcastle got Champions League, but missing out on Europe this coming season is a big deal, and it's important the club get back to the levels we know they can, because they produced it a couple of years ago. But it's really important that the club, as a whole, and with new signings, and in terms of Eddie Howe as well, they grow with the top level players they have, if Newcastle want to progress and move forward and keep hold of these players.
So we're all for pulling the basement, pulling the bottom level of the squad up, but you have to add to that top level as well, and I think that's almost something that was missing from last summer's window. Look, things didn't go. We know the story why things didn't go well, but that top level has to be added to. You want Tonali to have the season that Gordon's had, really, to then almost say that was worth doing.
Yeah.
And add another. They need that sprinkling of star quality, in my opinion, and it has to come on the right wing. But we'll discuss that in future videos. We just thought we'd give you a quick one. We're going to have to go and kick a ball around ourselves now in this sweltering Tyneside heat. Let's hope by the time you're watching this, it's still lovely and sunny where you are. Whether it's in Australia, America, we've got them all over. 33 countries. The worldwide Geordie journals.
Been checking those analytics.
Oh, I do. They're quite interesting. We're a pair of geeks, us, though, aren't we? So we do like getting stuck into the analytics. Anything left to say, Don, before we sign off? And show the world our own silky skills?
Show the world?
Well, we'll definitely not show the world.
No, I think that's it. We'll be back at some point next week when we're filming our debut TV episode.
Will we do one at the weekend? We've got time.
Potentially.
Possibly. We'll see.
Potentially.
It's
We
hard.
don't want to promise anything.
No, we're not
it's
going
a
to
busy
promise.
weekend for us both.
Yes.
Football's on too.
It certainly is. Right. You know the drill. There's a little bell there just under this this screen you'll be watching it on. If you're watching it on your computer, if you're watching it on your phone, just click that and you'll get all your Geordie Journos videos. There's also a little chance, if you love what the Geordie Journos do, there's a little donation button that, I'm not saying you have to, but if you love what we do and you love the type of stuff that we're continuing to do throughout the year, 12 months solid now of top quality Newcastle United content, if you want to donate, just click that button and, you know, add a couple of quid here, a couple of quid there. It's no problem to us. Anyway, like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm going to stop waffling now so you can go and enjoy your day. And we're about to kick a ball around, eh?
Aye.
Good night.